That's right. This is no longer Fantasy Author reacts to Warhammer 40k. Now Heretic reacts. Maybe. We'll see how you guys feel about the whole Heretic reacts thing. Let me know if you think it's funny and if it's something I should keep doing as kind of a bit. Because we all know my favorite are the Orc boys. I love the Orcs. They just want to stomp the universe, and I'm here for it. They're a plague, and I love them. But today, this filthy heretic is going to react to Imperium, Tyranids' First Contact, and the Battle of Macragge. I will, either it will already be uploaded or it will be coming out a few days after this one. I will be finally reacting to the second video on the Imperium of Man history by Lewitton. I've decided I'm just going to record that on my own time and not stream my reaction to that. But I will be reacting live on Twitch to Hell's Reach. I believe I said Saturday, April 27th, probably in the afternoon, 1 p.m. U.S. Central Standard Time is, I think, when I plan on starting. So I think this should probably be uploaded before before that day. We will see. If not, oopsies. You can watch the VOD. The VOD will be up for 2 weeks after, but I will also then be editing down that stream and uploading my reaction to Hell's Reach. It'll just feel probably a bit differently than my normal reactions here. So I just wanted to make sure my communication was clear on the upcoming Warhammer 40k reactions and all of that. Make sure to keep leaving comments and suggestions on other Warhammer channels, other Warhammer stuff you just want to see me react to. It helps me know kind of what to look out for, what to watch. Just helps me in general, not only the engagement, but also just lets me know you guys want to keep seeing me react to Warhammer 40k by seeing y'all leave comments and stuff. So, yeah, rambling done. Let's dive here into the Tyranids' First Contact. Planet Tyran, Ocean World, Imperial Research Station. Oh shit, are we getting like a sort of like fucking, I don't know how to explain, something more kind of like how Vati does his Elden Ring videos? Lore videos?
The Imperium of Man first made contact with a new Xenos species at the planet of Tyran. Imperial explorators, who are Mechanicus tech priests committed to exploration and exploitation of new planets and regions in the galaxy in the name of the Imperium, discovered a strange phenomena where planets previously recorded as lush and verdant were now barren husks. Not even a single cell of life remained. While this disturbing fact was immediately reported, the slow-turning cogs of the Imperium's bureaucracy was, as with most things, likely to raise not much more of an interest than the lift of an eyebrow. Stranger and more deadly things are likely occurring at almost any time than a planet simply just becoming a dead rock. Still, as the explorators would continue to report these strange dead worlds, a fleet of Xenos previously unrecorded would be drawing ever closer. A survey craft returning from studying these destroyed worlds encountered a strange cloud of unidentified objects entering the edge of the system. After taking some damage from strange organic mines in the edge of this cloud, the Imperial ship would manage to survive back to an Imperial base orbiting Tyran Primus with the disturbing reports. Days later...
Oh, I just realized why they call them Tyranids. It took a little bit. That took a couple minutes for it to click. They call them Tyranids because the planet Tyran is where they're attacking first. Duh!
The Xenos fleet would now descend from the skies down to the surface of Tyran Primus. The main base on Tyran was a heavily fortified bunker system designed to withstand the ferocious storms of the ocean world. Coupled with the fact that its location on the edge of Imperial territory made it a likely target for Xenos attacks. So 4 immense planetary defense lasers were situated on the outpost, along with void shield generators, which are a form of gravitic energy.
Now, why do they take the time to just call it observatory? Like, something that kind of pulls me out a little bit is this kind of odd. Sometimes I don't know why it's standing out to me right now, but it might be just because like the odd mixture that 40K has with mixing like Latin, Latinish stuff like observatorium with then just regular old English. I don't know. It just kind of throws me off a bit. Like, what is the point of calling this an observatorium? You can just call it an observatory. It gets like calling this an observatorium, I feel like doesn't really do anything. Like it doesn't enhance my immersion anyway. Which if it works for other people, then yeah, that's fucking sweet. But for me it doesn't work.
Field. It is typically utilized to defend super
Maybe because of what I researched in university, and just a lot of the other material. I know Warhammer 40K has been around for a while, but the material that I have consumed before diving into Warhammer 40K here on this channel, has also like Latin inspiration is Roman inspiration is very popular to do in like fantasy genres, and also very popular to talk about in history. So like maybe I've had enough of that Roman kind of inspiration and influence that I just kind of maybe I'm just kind of like sick of seeing it. I think that might be it. So this is just me airing out an opinion.
heavy vehicle
Don't fucking obliterate me in the comments. Just an opinion.
and infrastructure. Often you see these used by starships and titans in the Imperium. Void shields displace ranged attacks by distorting space-time around the point of impact. The outpost was then further supported by an array of other weapon systems, including autocannon and las cannon, as well as various heavy bastions and bunkers. The defense complemented.
Okay, so what I will say here about Lewitton, I think like this video, like I think especially this is a good thing to compare this video to the last Lewitton video I watched, which was the other Tyranid video that he had. One of the other Tyranid videos that he has, which was just kind of him talking about the Tyranid as a species in general, right? More so as like a sort of guide thing, and not necessarily he wasn't really telling it like a story. Here in this video, he is more so talking about the Tyranids as through a narrative instead of just explaining what they are, who they are, what they do, etc. And I like this style of Lewitton's storytelling. I think I really enjoy a lot way more so than I enjoyed the other Tyranid video that I watched just a few days ago.
Itself was also formidable, with 3 full Navy wings and a force of Skitarii, as well as finally an entire infantry regiment of Imperial Guard. A standard deployment for any frontier planet that had been deemed the standardized force strong enough to repel most enemy assaults. The alien horrors began to fall from the skies in an array of colours and strange storm-racked skies.
Did anyone try giving the Tyranids a little kiss? Maybe they just want some love and affection and they'll go away. Have we tried that? No.
The Imperial ground gunners attempted to...
Tyranids don't look all that fuckable anyway. We established this in the last Tyranid video. I can't fuck them. 0 out of 10.
Engage and prevent any of the invaders from...
Which then, hold on, sorry, I keep pausing and unpausing, but someone commented then on that video that because of the way in which the Tyranids replicate and whatnot and what they do, theoretically, if the Tyranid hive mind felt it needed to, it could create a Tyranid that is able to be fucked by humans. If it felt that was its best way of devouring biomass, In theory. In theory, it would work, right?
Making
Right.
planetfall. But just as suddenly as they'd begun, this attack from the strange unseen species would withdraw. Is this all they have? What an easy victory, mused the Imperial defenders. This ignorant overconfidence would soon be tragically misplaced.
Common trend in human thinking. Overconfidence.
Major Varnak ordered a fleet of Imperial Navy.
We've especially seen that take place in the Great War series that I've been watching on YouTube for the last couple years here on this channel, which you guys should go check out. I feel like there would be some overlap with you Warhammer 40k fans and that Great War series. It's a really great series. If you don't want to watch my reactions to it, that's fine. I definitely recommend going and watching the Great War series itself on its own without me yapping. It's a great series.
Navy cruisers to continue to harass the withdrawing Xenos as to make sure of their retreat and assumed broken morale. But upon following this command, the Imperial ships would quickly discover, as they pushed through the spore mine clouds that masked the Xenos fleet, they would see not a few, not even 100 of the strange bioships, but in fact thousands. Having suffered minimal, if any, losses from the initial planetary engagement, swarms of Xenos ships would seize upon these easily stunned prey as they rounded on the Imperial ships. The first to be physically shredded was the Emperor's Fist, ripped apart by small invasive organisms spewed forth from a larger alien vessel. As the others were similarly cut to pieces or ripped apart by tendrils, the now absolutely panic-wrought crew in the last surviving ship were able to dispatch a warning to Tyran. While in the process of doing so, Genestealers had been unleashed into the ship's interior, efficiently and brutally slaughtering the entire crew complement in minutes, while in the background other ships were already being absorbed into the fleet's bioreserves. The Xenos would now return to the orbit of Tyran, and there would be no respite this time, no withdrawal. Many thousands of their mycetic spores rained down to the planet's surface, with the Imperial outpost defences having little success in preventing them from doing so. As the ocean around the outpost began to foam and boil, the Imperial defenders looked on baffled, more than a little concerned. What kind of horror was this attack? Soon enough their answers returned, as aliens the likes of which had never been seen before sprang from the watery gestation. Imperial Guard would quickly turn to their instinctive training and even were successful in repelling the first waves of attack by these savage alien creatures. No doubt bolstered by the fact that among their number were Guard veterans from the Imperial death world of Katashan, a nightmarish jungle planet. The lower bioforms of the attacking Xenos were little match for most standard Imperial weaponry, and the Gaunts and Genestealers would be significantly decimated. Things, though, began to quickly unravel as one of their planetary defense lasers would fall silent. It was literally choked and clogged by a mass of Xenos gargoyles that had been instructed from the hive mind to force themselves down into its barrel and inner workings. Now the larger bioforms like Carnifexes would begin to appear, ripping through defences and destroying further weapon installations. The Xenos were turning the tables, and it was now only a matter of time before the guardsmen would be horribly dismembered and then consumed. The outpost soon is overrun by the alien horrors, and its heavy bastions and bunkers smashed to pieces or enveloped by this highly aggressive Xenos.
Man, look at this picture and I just think, what can those tongues do? I gotta stop letting the intrusive thoughts out.
Only Tyran's command bunker remained, and it was already beginning to buckle and crack under the weight of unrelenting damage being wrought to its exterior by huge aliens smashing their way inside. Major Varnak saw there was no hope. This was the end.
Well, he's awfully positive. Hopeful.
The few remaining Imperial Guard in Skitarii would fight down to their very flesh and bone before these savage invaders would seethe and flow through the command bunker's corridors. Major Varnak would pray to his Omnissiah before sending a data codex deep into the lowest levels, specially constructed as a kind of black box for the outpost. This data would be their legacy to the Imperium of Man, its records providing essential information for the Imperium and humanity.
One year later. Inquisitor Cryptman arrives at Tyran Primus.
As Cryptman approached the now dead, sterile world, he discovered that it had been ravaged of all life, even its oceans and atmosphere. Searching for the standard Imperial data codex that is secured in such a catastrophic destruction of an Imperial outpost, what he found was more disturbing than he could have imagined. And seeing the videos and accumulated data of the Xenos assault, Cryptman would immediately leave the planet to communicate and convey the severity and imminent danger posed by this new and horrific alien threat. A horror he would subsequently name TYRANIDS. The planet of Tyran would hold the morbid honour of now becoming their official designation. Inquisitor Cryptman attempted.
I like that kind of world building. I think it's probably pretty tropey when it comes to the sci-fi world for that to be a thing. Whether or not Warhammer 40k was the first to do it, I don't know. But yeah, I love that kind of I feel like that is such a human thing to do, where this alien species comes in and it's where you first contact them is how you then remember them. It's just like, I don't know, it just feels like such a human kind of reaction. I just really do like that. I love that so much.
To use his astropath on board to project a vision of his discovery to the Imperium's network, only to discover that this was not possible. Something was preventing the astropath from communicating. This, of course, was the psychic disturbance caused by the Hive fleet. So he instead proceeded to the next nearest Imperial planet of Thandros in the hopes of establishing communication, only to discover this world had also been ravaged and was now a sterile, dead planet. As is often the case with planets in the Imperium, sometimes entire worlds are lost without anybody even realizing it until years later. Eventually, after successfully establishing communications, he was ordered to proceed to the planet of Macragge, the Space Marine chapter homeworld of the Ultramarines. The alien fleet would be designated Behemoth. Thanks largely to the information gathered from the Tyran data codex, the Astartes and Imperial forces on Macragge were now able to formulate a plan in its defense. The chapter master Marnius Cal.
I just want to say again, the way he is telling the story, it's so good. It's so good. Maybe it's just the story itself that is being told that I find really interesting, but I feel like Lewitton is telling it in a really engaging and just intriguing way. I'm loving this video so far.
Algar quickly ordered its already immense, powerful defences strengthened. In addition to the existing Imperial ships in orbit, more arrived daily, including massive strike cruisers and Ultramarines battle barges. One thing was for sure, the Tyranid threat would have a far more challenging battle to be fought here than at Tyran and Thandros. It would not be until a month later that the Tyranids would finally begin to assault Macragge. Over 1,000 of the Xenos ships had been present entering the system and had now already ravaged the garden world of Prandium, a former lush paradise, a garden world, a glory to behold, and now a broken wasteland of death. Even with Cryptman's warnings, the first-hand accounts of the previously lush planet being turned to dead rock, Calgar was taken aback by the devastation of the Jewel of Ultramar. In Calgar's preparations, he would form 3 massive armies on the surface of Macragge, and as the first spores would begin to fall, the powerful Astartes regiments would begin their stand against the alien horrors. Calgar himself had formed the largest of these 3 armies and would carry out repeated rearguard assaults to wither and crush the Tyranid swarms. But the unrelenting weight and force of the Tyranids could not be suppressed, even with the power of the Ultramarines on their home planet. On the planet's surface, Titans stalked the land, obliterating any alien swarms in their path. The ferocity of the Tyranid assault was something never seen before by the Astartes, and some even saw the colossal Titans be dragged down to the ground before being brutally torn to pieces by the blurred forms of Claw and Chitin. First Company veteran Ultramarines would lay waste to these foul Xenos horrors, but deep inside their bunkers, holding every piece of ground until it could no longer be held, but slowly retreating inside their fortress. The attacking Tyranids would be relentlessly slaughtered like an ocean of alien bodies, exploding, disintegrating and being vaporized by the unwavering but slowly withdrawing Astartes. As the fighting became ever more brutal and desperate, with much of Calgar's defense forces now slaughtered, one of the final battles would be fought on a location known as Cold Steel Ridge. The previously master...
Love that name. I love the Battle of Cold Steel Ridge. Ooh. That goes hard.
The full rearguard army of Calgar here would find their match, as the hive mind had learned and adapted to his battle tactics. To compound the situation, the Tyranids would deploy a bioform later classified by the Imperium as a Swarm Lord. This massive creature was one of the final forms to lead assaults on Tyran and Thandros. Using the power of the hive mind, the Tyranids' previously mindless, animalistic, furious assaults now became viciously focused, even tactical. Over the remaining hours, the Swarm Lord would launch attacks again and again, killing scores of auxiliary troops in the most savage and horrific ways imaginable, no doubt in an attempt to horrify and break the human enemy. Torn apart, flayed, penetrated, dissolved, eaten alive, inside or out, the carnage continued on and on until the powerful Astartes began to appear outmatched by this previously mindless horror. Sensing victory, the Swarm Lord along with Tyranid warriors thrust into the fight and engaged Calgar himself. As the Ultramarines circled to aid the Chapter Master, Tyranids lying dead sprung to life, evidently feigning death in a suppressed state by the Swarm Lord so as to launch unexpected attacks on the now compromised Ultramarine defenders. Calgar would be torn and
all of Warhammer 40k is a war
savagely injured by this assault, and the remaining forces were forced into retreating to the battle barge Octavius. One of, if not the strongest defences of Macragge was its polar fortresses and massive ground weapons that fired high into orbit, obliterating the Xenos raining down onto the planet. The Tyranids, now being highly aware of this concentration of firepower, proceeded to rain down thousands more spores in this polar area, and Tyranids would now begin to...
What I really like that this video is showing, and videos similar to this is, especially with the Tyranids here and the Imperium, what we're seeing here is we are seeing a pretty, like, they are reacting to each other's tactics and devising plans to try and outsmart the other. The Tyranids are reacting to how the Ultramarines fight, and the humans are using what they have to their advantage and blowing the fucking ships out of the sky. And, like, they are using, like, good tactics here. So like, I don't know, it's nice to see people being competent, the enemy and the good guys being competent here.
Appear in even greater numbers, and the fortresses were soon seething with alien horrors. With few options available, Calgar had to trust his planet-side Astartes would handle the tidal wave of Xenos now engulfing their bunkers. So Calgar would instead turn his attention to the Hive fleet, determined that if Macragge must fall, no other planet would. Despite the Imperial fleet and the remaining planetary defences engaging the orbiting bioships and destroying hundreds of them en masse, many more remained, and wave after wave would assault the ships in space and the surface of the planet. By the time the Tyranids were deploying their 12th wave of attacks, the orbital defences of Macragge were now essentially annihilated, and so the Tyranids would even further intensify their attacks. Calgar would attempt to seize on this by assaulting their ships in orbit. The Tyranids were spread out in their attempts to envelop the planet, and then they would start to now withdraw their bioships, pull the engaging Imperial space vessels away from Macragge so as to be unable to assist the forces on the ground, especially around its polar bunkers and outposts. What the Tyranids could not have foreseen, though, was the arrival of the reinforcing battle fleet Tempestus, catching them now in between two Imperial fleets. But even so, the Tyranid Hive fleet was far from outmatched, and likely both fleets could have been potentially destroyed were it not for the supreme sacrifice of the mammoth Emperor-class battleship Dominus Astra. It would plough straight into the heart of the Hive fleet and sacrifice itself by detonating its warp drives, subsequently creating a warp vortex and dragging itself and the entire Tyranid fleet into total oblivion.
Oh.
Calgar's remaining forces rounded to return to Macragge and save the few, if any, Astartes forces that had managed to hold out in overwhelmed polar fortresses. Contact with the First Company veterans had now long been lost as the Tyranids overran the polar outpost, and Calgar, concerned by this, deployed the 3rd and 7th Companies by drop pod to the polar regions. As the Marines burst from their pod deployments, the scenes that met them were beyond belief. Hundreds of thousands of shredded and compounded Tyranid bodies lay piled as far as could be seen, and huge craters existed where plasma weapons and Titan reactors had gone critical, pocketing the surface of the land. Linking up quickly with any surface survivors, they pushed down into the depths of the outposts, clearing any Xenos they encountered. The 3rd Company, though, on landing was far less successful and came under heavy attack as soon as they made planetfall. Many hundreds of Tyranids sprang from the dark outpost entrances to engage them, but heavy fire from the Marines and Thunderhawk gunships overhead crushed them and drove them back into the darkness of the reinforced outposts. On entering the darkened corridors of the outpost as the 7th Company had done, the 3rd began to notice how walls and structural elements were dripping with mucus, and it seemed that in many places solid material appeared to be breaking down. They would lay down heavy flame units through the corridors to clear their advances, slowly progressing deeper into the bunkers. As the 3rd Company continued to burn their way into the darkness, every step crushing alien chitin and acidic blood splashing everywhere, they slowly entered the deepest areas of the bunkered outposts in the polar region. And it was here that they would finally find the last remaining 1st Company veterans. A single circle of Space Marines in Terminator armor laying slumped back to back, having been savagely ended by the Xenos horrors. There were no First Company Ultramarines remaining. They had been killed to the last man.
Rest in peace. Rest in pieces.
After the nightmare that was the battle for their chapter world, they faced the huge task of rebuilding their chapter, notably the veteran First Company, which had been so brutally obliterated. This task would be bequeathed to Chaplain Cassius, who would request to Calgar that the new First Company veterans be drawn from the ranks of those who had survived the tyrannic assault, as only they could understand this threat and the consequences of a tyrannic war. These elite veterans make up the now reformed First Company of the Ultramarines. The battle for Macragge is a bittersweet victory for the Ultramarines, having been successful against such a horrific enemy, but also suffering such devastating losses. The names of their fallen brothers are commemorated each year, and their sacrifices remembered throughout the Ultramar system. And so the Tyranids would not be seen for over 200 years, until without warning in 993 of Millennium 41, a new invasion fleet would appear. Hive Fleet Kraken, which would now engage with simultaneous attacks on planets throughout the system. Eventually this assault would also be repelled, but the Tyranids would again be detected by Inquisitor Kryptman in 997 of Millennium 41, only 4 years later. Kryptman was able, by burning out Astropass, to discern this new fleet Leviathan's intended course of attack through its targeted system. But despite some initial defensive successes, Kryptman would order the act of exterminatus on the world of Cordelis, the next planet in the Tyranids' path, so as to reduce their ability to increase their biomass. Despite Imperial Navy objections, Kryptman would succeed in carrying out his exterminatus to the planet and its population with virus bombs. This catastrophic level of civilian deaths and his...
Why not? Like, surely he had enough time, would have had enough time to figure out something to, like, I don't know, evacuate some of them. Maybe not the entire planet, but, like, to start killing it, like, could have tried to evacuate some, I think.
Lies to the Ultramarines would enrage them and other Imperial forces. Worse would be to come, though, when Kryptman would order the single largest self-inflicted atrocity in Imperial history, when he would order a system-wide scorched earth tactic by using exterminatus on every planet within the reach of Hive Fleet Leviathan. so as to effectively starve them of biomatter.
Did it
He
work?
would later, due to these actions, be denounced as a traitor to the Imperium and Carta Externis by his fellow Inquisitors. But Kryptman still held loyal allies within the Astartes' Death Watch, and the final fate of Hive Fleet Leviathan was far from over. The Tyranids and their ongoing tyrannic wars would change the Imperium forever, but there are many who believe that their invasions of the galaxy have only just begun. Further examination of Imperial records after the Tyrannic Wars had begun revealed disturbing facts. Facts that suggest the Tyranids had been around for a much longer period of time, and that predatory creatures like the Katashan Devil and Fenrisian Kraken are actually ancient descendants of Tyranid hive fleets, perhaps long since abandoned or forgotten by the Hive. Records of the Ordo Xenos of the Inquisition have suggested Tyranid contact as far back as Millennium 35. Bioships of Tyranid configuration were also discovered on an ice planet after Imperial Guard was sent to deal with an orc threat there. Tyranids would burst out attacking the guardsmen sent, but they could not understand how this was possible, as no Tyranid ships were in orbit of the planet. Eventually they realized that as long ago as 7,000 years, a full Tyranid hive ship had crashed into the planet and remained dormant ever since. The prospect of it reanimating and sending out psychic distress calls is something that they could not allow to happen. Eventually, the Imperial forces are able to destroy the hive ship by enabling massive volcanic eruptions which consume and destroy the trapped ship and all its horrific inhabitants. But these events suggested that the Tyranids had been present even earlier than Millennium 45, perhaps anything longer than even 1,000 years prior, and it also penetrated.
That was Imperium. Tyranids, First Contact, and the Battle of Macragge. Warhammer 40k lore and history by Lewitton. This was a really good video. I really enjoyed this one. I just loved how he told the story here. Really got no complaints. I think towards the end here, perhaps, if I gotta be really critical, I think he went a bit. I don't know. I feel like he went it didn't. The ending here didn't flow quite as well as I feel like the majority of the video did. The last like 3-4 minutes or so of this video, but still very good. I feel like this was a much better introduction to the Tyranids than the previous video on the Tyranids that I watched was just him explaining what the Tyranids like were and what they did. I feel like this was a much better kind of like intro to them, and then I should have for this one gone and watched that Tyranid video to get a more in-depth look to them. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.